This is the third video in a series of 7 that's aimed to outline some of the issues that classical liberalism was experiencing in the 19th and 20th centuries. So during the 18th century, the structure of society was definitely being reorganized according to new rules. Whereas before, society was divided based on rank and class, such as the noble classes and the peasants, who had to be born into that rank. Now, one can move their way into high society. One simply had to have the money. What was lacking, however, in this new social model was a fair and equal distribution of wealth to all who contributed their effort into making it happen, especially the workers. This new social structure created a split in society. The split happened between the factory owners on the one hand and the factory workers on the other. The owners came to be known as the bourgeoisie, and the workers came to be known as the proletariats. The term socialism refers to any ideology that believes that resources should be controlled by the public for the benefit of not just a few, but for everyone in the society. Not by private interests, but for the benefit of the public. Socialist supporters value economic equality among citizens. This economic equality is achieved by providing income security for all through guaranteed employment and guaranteed living standards, which of course have to be supplied not by the factory owners who are concerned with their own profit and self-interest, but rather by the government, who should be concerned with the public at large. Furthermore, within the socialist ideology, principles of cooperation are favored over principles of competition. Principles of collectivism are favored rather than principles of individualism. The emerging ideology of socialism received a lot of support in the 19th century from thinkers in all sectors of society, including writers, politicians, philosophers, businessmen, etc. One man in particular, John Stuart Mill, who had an interest in the philosophy of ethics, developed a theory that placed the interest of the collective higher than the sole interest of the individual. Mill was concerned with the idea of maximizing happiness for all. He believed that people really do desire happiness, and since each individual desires their own happiness, it must follow that all of us desire the happiness of everyone, contributing to a larger social utility. Thus, an action that results in the greatest pleasure for the utility of society is the best possible action that should be taken. His ethical theory of utilitarianism claims that an action, whether on an individual to individual level or on a political or macroscopic level, is the right action if it produces the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest amount of people. A society should always strive to produce the greatest amount of good for everyone. This way of thinking inspired men like Robert Owen, who afterwards became known as one of the leading figures of an ideological movement known as utopian socialism. The word utopia has been around since 1516, and it's been used to refer to any imaginary or perfect world that's meant to serve as a model for the real world. In the 19th century, utopian socialism emerged as a leading ideology in opposition to classical liberalism. Utopian socialism was referring to all socialist ideas that presented a vision and a distant goal of an ethically just society. They were inspired by a vision for the common good of all. One of the key figures of utopian socialism is Robert Owen, who lived in 1771 to 1858. He's actually known as the father of British socialism. Robert Owen believed that the harshness of life under laissez-faire capitalism actually corrupted human nature. By the age of 19, he opened up his own business and became a manager of the Chorlton Twist Company in New Lanark, the largest cotton spinning business in Britain. Owen used this opportunity to put his beliefs into practice. New Lanark became a model community that helped to demonstrate his utopian principles. Robert Owen created his own village for workers called New Lanark. Believing that education was the key to a humane, just society, Owen established the Institute for the Formation of Character, which was really a community education center. He also improved the living conditions of the workers. Existing houses were renovated, new ones were built with an eye to comfort rather than for his own personal gain. The creation of this settlement at New Lanark, in which architecture and planning were coupled with a humane concern for the worker, this became a milestone in social and industrial history. New Lanark inspired other benevolent industrialists to follow Robert Owen's example, and this movement laid the foundation for another humanitarian, Ebenezer Howard, who was an urban planner and created the idea of the Garden City. So in this video, we touched on the issue in the blue circle. Why did ideologies develop in opposition to classical liberalism? And our focus was the ideology of socialism. In our next video, we are going to be taking a look at another ideology which developed in opposition to classical liberalism. This one, however, was more radical and required more change. This is the ideology of communism.